Hello my friends, Kat Miller here. In this video, I'm going to share with you the number one way that you can get more leads, meaning more paid clients, leads leading to paid clients in less time. How to actually earn a leveraged income so that you can accelerate your business growth. Now, before I go into how to actually do it, I want to share with you a little bit about what happened to me when I first moved to Sydney. So if you were with me in 2013, I was standing in a queue about to go to an event at the Sydney Convention Centre. I don't know if you remember when the International Convention Centre was just the Sydney Convention Centre. And I'd just moved to Sydney and I'd seen this ad on Facebook that said Mike Tyson was coming to town. And they'd advertise it like an entrepreneurial event. So, how to come and get these entrepreneurial tips from Mike. And he was the headliner. And so I was standing in this queue and I was wearing kind of like a business attire, a business dress and heels. And there were a whole lot of other business people in the queue as well. But there were also a whole heap of 18-year-old dudes carrying their boxing gloves because they wanted to get them signed. And so eventually we all went in and there was hundreds of people, thousands of people actually. And we all sat down and all day there was these speakers speaking to us. There was real estate, there was people teaching how to trade and Forex and shares and property and all this stuff. And a lot of people started to get a bit annoyed, like when is Mike Tyson coming out? And it got to about the afternoon and I was with a group of people who said, oh, let's just go to the pub. I don't think Mike's even coming. And we tried to talk to them and find out when Mike would be on, and they said, oh, we can't share that. Anyway, people just slowly started leaving, and we're in this massive convention. Just drop a yes in the comments if you've been to the Sydney Convention Centre and you know what I'm talking about, that massive auditorium that sits thousands of people. And it just kind of cleared out and suddenly there was just hardly anyone left. But I stayed there. I didn't want to go to the pub. I wanted to, learn as much as I could. And this couple, well, these two guys came on and they were called Jeff and Kane. And it was Jeff Minkus and, Jeffrey Slater and Kane Minkus. And there were these two amazing men from, they lived in Manly, I think it was, and then they moved to America and they'd just been on tour with Tony Robbins. Does anyone know who I'm talking about? Jeff and Kane. They used to do this duo, and they were used to speaking to thousands and thousands of people. Was anyone there, by the way? I know Nettie D was there. Nettie D Lakovich was there. She snapped a photo. And anyway, they said, look, we had a whole presentation plan, but because there's not many people here, we're just going to do a Q&A. And so I was sitting there about halfway up in the grandstand type thing that went all the way up. And they said, just raise your hand if you've got a question. And my hand just shot up in the air. I don't know if you've ever done this, but your hand goes up and then you just kind of look at it and go, I don't even remember putting my hand up or how that thought process happened. But I remember thinking, okay, I've got from the point that this mic runner runs to me to think of a question. I didn't even have a question. I just saw this opportunity and I've kind of trained myself to say yes to opportunities. So when my hand went up, I remember I was eating this, I'd just taken a bite of a protein bar, and you know how long they take to chew? And I'd just taken a bite. When my hand went up, I was like, oh no, this guy's running a mic to me. Anyway, so I had to chew that protein bar and think of a question. And so the mic comes, they were like, give this girl a hand, give this lady a hand. And they said, okay, what's your question? And I just stood up and I said, I really want to be a speaker. And I'd just love your advice. And they said, oh, she wants to be a speaker. Get her down the front. Come on down. Come on stage. And I remember just being so embarrassed because I didn't want to get on stage, but I knew that one day I wanted to be a speaker, but I didn't quite think that it would be that day. Anyway, so I go down and I stand on stage, and it's this massive, massive room that I'm standing on stage. And he said, okay, we want you to, he taught me how to hold the mic, and then he said, we want you to share to the audience one piece of advice. And so I just had this split second. He's like, go, and he gives me the mic. And I just said to them, my one piece of advice is to run at your fears. because if you run away from them, they just chase you. And I think because I'd recently moved countries, I'd moved from London back to Auckland, over to Sydney, didn't have any like friends here, or barely any friends. I hardly had any money. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just knew that I had to follow my heart and my dreams, and I knew that I wanted to be a speaker. And I was shaking. I was really, really shaking. And anyway, they cheered, and Nettie D took a photo of me standing on that stage. I've still got the photo today. And in that moment, I realized that on my vision board for about 8 years, I'd had me standing on stage, and I really wanted to speak at the Sydney Convention Centre because I used to travel over to Sydney from Auckland to go to this convention every year called Filex. It was a massive fitness convention that they held at that place. And I realized in that moment that my dream was to speak there, and now I was on stage. And yes, I'd just been randomly called out of the audience. I wasn't really the speaker. Of course, I wasn't the speaker, but it was almost like my body experienced that feeling of standing on stage and at the Sydney Convention Centre, and my dream from the vision board came true. Now, what was interesting is 2 years later, I realized that I wanted to apply for Filex, to actually be a speaker at Filex, this convention that I'd been to about 8 different times. Usually I flew over from New Zealand to go to it. And so I applied for it. I'd always wanted to speak there, but I never thought I was qualified enough. I never thought I was good enough. I never thought that I would be accepted. The first time I applied for it, I actually got accepted. And so 2016, I spoke at the International Convention Centre, and that was actually the dream coming true from the vision board. But because I had done it a few years before and actually stood there, and my body had experienced it and been very nervous and shaking and bright red and sweating and all of that, when I did actually speak there as a speaker, I wasn't so nervous. And it was in that moment when I got up on stage and spoke at that Mike Tyson event very briefly, that I realized that I wanted to have a platform. It felt so good, even though it was nerve-wracking, even though I'm an introvert, even though I was doing so much one-to-one. I was doing one-to-one training and coaching. I'd realized that if you want to leverage your time, if you want to make a big impact, which I hope you do, I'm sure you do, then one-to-one is just not going to cut it. You cannot make a big impact if you're only working one-on-one. If you want to leverage your time, if you want to speed up your process to grow your business, you need to be able to speak one-to-many. And one of my favorite speakers, Benjamin J. Harvey, he talks about waking up your future belonging. It's like an identity where there's a part of you that wakes up and realizes, I want to be that thing, whether that's an author or a mother or a spiritual advisor or a teacher or a trainer or an educator. In 2013, that same year, I was sitting in another convention center or a hotel, big hotel room. I can't remember where it was, but it was the Visionary Leadership Conference with John DeMartini and Benjamin J. Harvey. And again, my future belonging got awoken by Ben. And he said something that really stood out to me. He said, if you're willing to stand on a platform, whatever that looks like, it doesn't necessarily mean physically standing on a stage, but if you're willing to take a platform and you're willing to do the hard thing that most people aren't prepared to do, you're going to separate yourself from the competition. And people on mission have no competition. If you're willing to go through that, it's one of the number one fears that people have is public speaking. But if you are someone who is willing to talk about what you love and share your message with the world and overcome that fear. I definitely had a massive fear of speaking in public. I didn't even think that I would be able to speak to a room of 10, like a small group workshop, let alone, a big, massive group. But when Ben shared that and he talked about the impact that you can make from going from a one-on-one model to a one-to-many model, it woke up something inside me. And I went from thinking, who am I to think that I could do that, to saying, why not me? Why not me? Why could I not do that? And so I had no money. I was with my friend, and I remember thinking, oh, I'm not going to take my credit card because I know how these things work. You know, they always ask you to invest, and you think you're not going to buy something, and then you end up buying a course or something. And I thought that that was going to happen, and I had no money. And I thought, well, I can't buy anything because I don't have money. And I remember I had about $500 in my bank account, and all I could afford was rent. And but when he said that, who wants to be a speaker? I stood up, and he said, right, head down the back. And I thought, wow, wow, I'm actually doing this. And I signed up for a $5,000 course. He always says, and I believe this completely, if something's important to you, you find the money. And you've probably found this for yourself where you really want something so badly and somehow you make it work. It's like your filter systems change, your eyes open, and you find the way to make it happen. You find the resources to make it work. And that's what happened to me, is that I put down the $495 deposit, even though I had my rent coming out. And I can't remember how I did it, but I made it happen, and I paid off that course obviously years ago, and have made so much more than that back. And I'm now earning a six-figure income doing what I love as a coach, and now mostly the one-to-many model I'm using to run online events. So obviously live events are an amazing way to get clients, and a great way to improve your credibility, your expert status, and to leverage your time. Because instead of just talking one-to-one, 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 like imagine in a day, right? So I run a 7-hour workshop is usually my live event that's in person, or an online event might be 5 or 6 hours, for example. Imagine that 7-hour event, and I had to speak one at a time, one person at a time. That would be 7 hours. Or I could talk to 50 or 100 people during those 7 hours, which means instead of talking to 7 people in 7 hours, I can talk to 100 people in 7 hours, which means that you are massively speeding up the time it's going to take to reach that many people. I just think it's such a no-brainer. But the reason why most of us avoid it for so long is simply because of fear. A fear of what people might think, a fear of failure, a fear of judgment, a fear of being an imposter, being a fraud, not knowing enough, not feeling good enough. All of these come down to one thing, which is fear. And if you can decide to take action anyway, and decide to show up despite that fear, and decide to be the kind of person that does a one-to-many model rather than a one-to-one model, you are going to be super successful. You're going to accelerate and explode your growth. You get exponential growth, an explosion of growth, which is what has happened to me. Like during COVID, I was working with people, you know, mainly one-on-one, but I was doing a lot of in-person things. I doing a lot of live workshops, and I just had to quickly jump onto online events. I wasn't sure how they were going to go, but I was watching, you know, a webinar recently, and they were saying that they had an event where most of the people on there were not from the state where they were running it. So people are able to obviously tune in from all over the world. I was doing one with Grace Lever. She had a weekend event with 700 women on it, and it was brilliant. An online event with 700 people. Like, who would have thought that was possible? It's incredible. I crewed for Authentic Education, who did a presenting course online, and also a coaching course. So it was the very first coaching course actually run online, where the ICF accredited coaches to become certified coaches online. First time it's ever been done in the history of the world. And in that very event, people became qualified. 80% of people said they preferred the online environment, which I found fascinating. So if you want to leverage your time and speed up your results and get way more leads in a short amount of time and a lot of paid clients in a short amount of time, the one-to-many model is the way to go. It is the fastest way to get success. And I've built my whole big business as a six-figure coach from doing this one-to-one model. I mean, I've paid for that $5,000 that I invested in that presenters course. I've done multiple presenters courses because I just love the subject. I love presenting. Presenting is the one piece of the one craft that I want to be good at for the rest of my life. I want to be doing it till I'm old. So I'm always going to be doing it and mastering it and learning more and more and more. I've learned from about 5 or 6 different teachers on presenting. I've crewed that Present Like a Pro course. I think it's up to 9 times now. It's a 6-day course because I'm just so committed, because it's the fastest way to grow your business. And I'm not sure where you are at when it comes to your mindset around presenting, whether you're scared of it, whether you're open to it. But it's safe to say, I would guess about you, that you would love to be able to share a message and have lots of people listen to it, to hear you talking about something you love. I mean, who agrees that it would be a pretty good way to make money, to actually just be able to talk about what you love and get paid for it? Who would say yes to that? Just give me a yes in the comment box if you're willing to give it a crack and get paid to actually just speak about what you love and teach people and help people. It's a bit of a no-brainer, right, when you think about it. You know, if you want to get clients, you can really only do 2 things. You can write, you can get people through your written content, or you can speak. You can get people through your spoken content. And with your spoken content, you can do it just audio only, so you can have your own podcast, or you can do video. And that's really your options. You're not going to build a business if you don't create content, if you don't create value in the world. That's what business is people exchanging value to get an ROI, to get a return on their investment for the money invested. So there's really those 3 ways. You can write, you can speak on audio, you can speak on video. So many people are unwilling to do it. They're just so unwilling to step up and face their fears. And the fact is, none of us were born knowing how to do it. I mean, we're all had to learn how to talk first of all, but then we had to learn how to talk on Facebook, and then we had to learn how to talk, like how to learn the skill of influential content. Like everything is just learnable. It's a learnable skill. And if someone else can learn it, then you can too. But it does take a formula. You need to know the formula. It's a specific structure. You can't just show up and throw up, right? You can't just, just ramble. You've got to have valuable content to share that people are going to get use from, right? And so when you run online events or any type of events, you need to have a specific formula and structure. And that's what I've learned through all the presenting courses that I've done. And that's what I also teach my clients, because I teach my clients predominantly marketing and sales. And I could not just teach them online marketing through written content without teaching them the main strategy that's got me clients and built my business, which is presenting, which is events, so workshops and webinars. So if you're willing to step up and do one-to-many, which means you can leverage your time, you can even do none-to-many, which means you don't even have to be there. You can do a webinar that's evergreen that people watch later. You can do a course that you create once, a whole lot of video trainings, and people can watch it later. These are all none-to-many strategies, but you've got to start by being willing to learn a formula for presenting. So we've got a lot of yeses here. Hey, thanks those of you who are on here live. There's quite a few of you now. Hello. Oh, hey, Matt. Matt says, I remember when you first got that speaking gig. Oh, really? That's so interesting. Is that when I was teaching ACPE? That's so interesting. Run at your fears. Yeah, absolutely. So there's a whole formula and a structure that you need to follow to not only make sure that people engage and get value from what you're sharing, but also getting them to turn up is the first hurdle. That's all the marketing, the event marketing. You've also got to be able to keep them engaged, make sure that they are inspired to take action. So it's not just teaching information. People can download information on Google. It's about inspiring people to be able to go out there and apply what you're learning. So that takes a specific structure and formula. So I'm teaching this Saturday. I have an event this Saturday called Grow Your Business with Online Workshops. With online events, because I called it online events because I'm going to cover how to do Facebook Live videos, how to do webinars, and also how to do workshops. So I've really built my business on webinars and workshops, and there's a specific structure that I recommend that you follow to not only get people to turn up but also become paying clients, so that they actually know you, like you, trust you, that you get that engagement, that rapport, and that you also help them to actually make a buying decision. So I teach all of my best tips and tricks that I've learned over the years and applied in my business to grow my coaching business. So if you're interested, I'll just pop the details into the comments box now. If you've got any questions, just post them in the comments. Oh, thank you, Trish. Trish says registered and attending. Can't wait, as your workshops are awesome. Thank you, Trish. I appreciate it. I do really love to give lots of value. I had my nails done recently, and I always go to the same lady, and I was so excited to go back after they opened again. And I said to her, "Oh, dear, what's your secret to always having such a full salon?" And she goes, "I look after customer." That was it. I look after customer. And I thought, that is business. It's really looking after customers. It's looking after them. It's giving them value. It's giving them more than what they are paying for. And I always give her a tip because she just always looks after me and does such an amazing job. And if you do that as well, if you look after people, then you will always have people wanting to work with you. And that's what I really value about these workshops that I do. I put in a lot of time and effort and make sure that they're super value packed so that you get so much out of it. It's very step by step, and I don't hide anything. I just share it all. I'm very transparent. Any of you that have come to my workshops know that I just love to give and give and give and give, and so you will get a massive return on your investment for investing in that. And I'd love to see you there. If you're a coach, consultant, any type of service-based business owner, it's ideal for you. You can very quickly build your business and get paid clients from using online events as a strategy, even if you don't know where to start. If you don't know anything about technology, if you don't know how to set up the webinars and the emails and how to do it all, don't worry, I'll take you step by step through it all. And I don't leave anything hidden. Well, I do as much as I can in that full day anyway. So thank you for joining me live. It was so nice to connect with you here. I just want to encourage you. The world is waiting for your words. And if you can step up and embrace this one-to-many model where you are speaking to multiple people at the same time, you're going to have a much bigger influence, a much bigger impact, make a much bigger impact in the world, and really make a difference that I believe that you're here to make. So I encourage you, if you're feeling any kind of fear, write it down and work on it. Do a coaching session on it, and don't let that hold you back, because the world is waiting for you, my friend. Take care. I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.